I came home early. Husband in ICU. Son was calm. I locked every account. Then the panic started. I came home early from my business trip and found my husband fighting for his life in the ICU. The house was empty when I arrived. No lights on, no car in the driveway, no sign that anyone had been there for hours. That alone was strange. My husband Richard had been recovering from minor surgery, and our son Marcus and his wife Amber had insisted on staying with him while I was away. "Don't worry, Mom," Marcus had said when I left 3 days ago. "We'll take care of Dad. You focus on your conference." I had believed him. I had trusted my own son. That was my first mistake. I called Richard's phone. No answer. I called Marcus. No answer. I called Amber, straight to voicemail. A cold feeling settled in my stomach, the kind of intuition that comes from 63 years of living, the kind that tells you something is terribly wrong before your mind can articulate what. I called the hospital. "Mrs. Morrison, we've been trying to reach you for hours. Your husband was brought in this morning. He's in the ICU. You need to come immediately." I don't remember the drive to the hospital. I don't remember parking or walking through the doors or finding the ICU waiting room. I just remember the moment I saw them, Marcus and Amber, sitting in plastic chairs by the vending machine, calm, composed, as if nothing had happened. My husband was somewhere behind those doors fighting for his life, and my son was scrolling through his phone while his wife examined her manicure. "Marcus." My voice came out as a whisper. "What happened?" He looked up, and for a split second, I saw something flicker across his face. Not concern, not guilt, something else. Annoyance, like I had interrupted something important. "Oh, Mom, you're here." He stood up slowly, pocketing his phone. Dad had a bad reaction to his medication. They're working on him now. A bad reaction? He was fine when I left. What medication? The painkillers from his surgery. I guess he took too many. Richard doesn't take too many of anything. He's been managing his medication carefully for weeks. Well, apparently not carefully enough. Marcus shrugged. These things happen. I stared at my son, this man I had raised, had loved, had sacrificed everything for. And I felt something shift inside me. These things happen. My husband was dying and my son was talking about it like a minor inconvenience. "Where were you when it happened?" "At the house. We found him unresponsive in the bedroom this morning." "This morning? It's 4 p.m. Why didn't you call me?" "We called the hospital." I asked why you didn't call me. Marcus exchanged a glance with Amber, a quick, loaded look that told me everything I needed to know. They hadn't called me on purpose. They had wanted me to be far away when whatever was happening happened. "We didn't want to worry you," Amber said smoothly, standing up to join her. "Husband, you were at your conference. We thought we could handle it." "Handle it?" "My husband is in the ICU. And he's getting the best possible care. There's nothing you could have done that we didn't already do." I looked at Amber. This woman my son had married 4 years ago. This woman who had slowly inserted herself into every aspect of our family's finances. This woman who smiled too much and said too little. I had never trusted her. And right now, looking at the calm calculation in her eyes, I understood why. I want to see my husband. The doctors said family only. I am family. I am his wife. I pushed past them and walked toward the ICU doors. Behind me, I heard Amber whisper to Marcus, "This is a problem." Yes, I was about to become a very big problem. My name is Vivienne Okafor Morrison. I am 63 years old. I was born in Accra, Ghana, the daughter of a businessman who taught me to trust my instincts and verify everything. The people closest to you, my father used to say, are the ones who can hurt you most. Love them, but never stop watching. I had watched my son for years. I had watched him change after he married Amber, becoming more secretive, more distant, more interested in our family's money than in our family. I had watched Amber ingratiate herself into our lives, offering to help with the family business, volunteering to manage household accounts, always positioning herself closer to the money. And I had watched, 3 months ago, when Richard changed his will. He hadn't told me about it directly, but I had found the documents in his office, a new will that left significantly more to Marcus than our original estate plan had specified, a will that had been drawn up by a lawyer Amber had recommended. I hadn't confronted Richard about it. I had simply started paying closer attention. And now my husband was in the ICU, and my son and his wife were sitting calmly in the waiting room, and everything I had feared was becoming terrifyingly real. The doctor met me outside Richard's room. Dr. Sarah Chen, a woman I had known for 20 years, who had treated our family through countless illnesses and injuries. "Vivian." Her face was grave. "I need to talk to you." "How is he?" "Stable for now, but it was close. Another hour and we might have lost him." "What happened?" Dr. Chen glanced around, then lowered her voice. "His blood work shows extremely elevated levels of opioids, far more than his prescription would account for. Marcus said he took too many painkillers. Vivian, the levels we're seeing aren't consistent with accidental overdose. They're consistent with someone receiving multiple doses over a period of hours." The words hung in the air between us. Multiple doses over a period of hours. "You're saying someone gave him those drugs?" "I'm saying the toxicology report raises serious questions, questions that need to be answered by someone other than me." "Have you called the police?" "I wanted to talk to you first. You're his wife. You have the right to know what we're dealing with before this becomes a criminal investigation." I looked through the window at my husband, this man I had loved for 40 years, this man who had built an empire with me, this man who was lying motionless in a hospital bed because someone had tried to kill him. "Call the police," I said, "and don't let Marcus or Amber anywhere near this room." Dr. Chen nodded and walked away. I stood at the window, watching Richard breathe, watching the machines track his vital signs, watching the evidence of someone's attempt to murder my husband. And then I pulled out my phone and did what I should have done months ago. I started protecting everything we had built. The calls took 45 minutes. First, our bank, Morrison Family Trust, where we kept the majority of our liquid assets. I need to freeze all accounts immediately. No withdrawals, no transfers, no access for anyone except me. "Mrs. Morrison, your son Marcus is listed as an authorized user. Remove him, effective immediately. This is a security emergency." Second, our investment broker. "Freeze everything. No trades, no redemptions, no changes of any kind without my explicit written authorization." "Is there a problem, Mrs. Morrison?" "Yes, and I'm handling it." Third, our family attorney. "I need you to invalidate the will Richard signed 3 months ago, the one Amber's lawyer drew up." "Vivian, I can't just invalidate a legal document. Richard is in the ICU with a suspicious overdose. His son and daughter-in-law were alone with him when it happened. That will give them a significantly larger inheritance than our original plan. Connect the dots." Silence on the other end. "I'll have the paperwork ready within the hour. And Vivian, I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry, be fast." Fourth, the property management company that handled our real estate portfolio. "Marcus and Amber Morrison are no longer authorized to access any properties. Change all access codes immediately." "But they're staying at your Charleston property." "Not anymore. They have 24 hours to vacate." Finally, I called someone I had hoped I would never need to call. A private investigator named Samuel Washington, a former FBI agent who specialized in family financial crimes. "Mr. Washington, my name is Vivian Morrison. My husband is in the ICU with what appears to be a deliberate overdose. I believe my son and his wife are responsible. I need you to find proof." "What makes you think they're involved?" "Because they're the only ones who had access to him. Because they didn't call me when it happened. Because 3 months ago, my husband changed his will to give them more money. And because right now, they're sitting in the hospital waiting room looking annoyed instead of devastated. That's circumstantial." "I know. That's why I need you to find the proof." "I'll start tonight. In the meantime, Mrs. Morrison, be careful. They're capable of what you're suggesting. They won't stop just because their first attempt failed." "I know. That's why I'm not giving them a second chance." I hung up the phone and walked back to the waiting room. Marcus and Amber were exactly where I had left them, sitting, waiting, pretending to be concerned family members. They didn't know yet that their world was about to collapse. "Mom," Marcus stood as I approached. "How is Dad?" "Stable. The doctors are cautiously optimistic." "That's great news." His relief seemed genuine, but I had learned to see through my son's performances. "Can we see him?" "No, family only for now." "We are family." "You're not on the approved visitor list, hospital policy." "Since when?" "Since I spoke with the doctors about security concerns." Marcus's expression shifted, a flicker of something dark behind his eyes. "Security concerns? What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that your father's overdose wasn't accidental." Silence. Amber's face went pale. Marcus's jaw tightened. "That's ridiculous," Amber said. "He must have gotten confused with his medication. His toxicology report shows levels consistent with multiple doses administered over several hours, not one accidental double dose, multiple deliberate doses." "You're not a doctor. You don't know—" "I know what Dr. Chen told me, and I know what the police are going to find when they investigate." "The police?" Marcus's voice cracked. "You called the police?" "Dr. Chen called the police. It's standard procedure when there's evidence of foul play." "There's no evidence of anything." "There's a toxicology report. There's a timeline showing you were alone with Richard for 12 hours before you found him unresponsive. And there's a new will that gives you 3 times what you would have received under our original estate plan." "You think we tried to kill Dad for money?" "I think someone gave my husband enough opioids to stop his heart. I think that someone had access to him, access to his medication, and a financial motive. And I think you and Amber are the only people who fit that description." Marcus stepped toward me, his face contorted with rage. "You're insane. You've always been paranoid, always been controlling, always been watching." I held his gaze without flinching. "Always been paying attention, always been one step ahead of whatever scheme you and your wife have been cooking up." "We haven't. Your bank accounts are frozen. Your investment access is revoked. The Charleston property is being cleared, and the will Amber's lawyer drew up is being invalidated as we speak." The color drained from Amber's face. "You can't do that." "I just did. Every account, every property, every asset you thought you had access to, it's gone. You have nothing now except what you came into this marriage with." "That's our money. That's my money, mine and Richard's. Money we built together over 40 years. Money you've been trying to steal since the day you married my son." Amber's composure finally cracked. "You don't have proof of anything. I don't need proof to protect my assets. I need proof to send you to prison, and the police are going to find it." Marcus grabbed my arm, hard, his fingers digging into my flesh. "You're making a mistake, Mother. A very big mistake." "Let go of me." "Not until you understand—" "Security!" 2 hospital security guards appeared within seconds. I had asked them to stay close when I first arrived. "This man is assaulting me. Remove him from the building." "Mrs. Morrison, that's your son." "He's also a suspect in the attempted murder of my husband. Remove him, now." The guards looked at each other, then at Marcus, then at me. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us." "This is ridiculous." "Sir, now." They escorted Marcus and Amber out of the waiting room, through the hospital lobby and out the front doors. I watched them go. My son, the man I had raised, the child I had loved more than my own life. And I felt nothing but cold, clear determination. If they had tried to kill Richard once, they would try again. Unless I stopped them. The investigation moved quickly after that. Samuel Washington, the private investigator, delivered his preliminary findings within 48 hours. He had discovered that Amber had been researching opioid overdoses for months, search history on her computer, library books checked out under her name, conversations with a friend who worked in a pharmacy about how much was too much. He had found communications between Marcus and Amber discussing their timeline, coded language that, in context, clearly referred to their plan to accelerate Richard's death, and he had located a witness, a neighbor who had seen Marcus leaving a pharmacy with a large bag 2 days before Richard's accident, a pharmacy where Richard didn't have any prescriptions. The police arrested Marcus and Amber on the 3rd day. The charges were attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and elder abuse. The evidence was overwhelming. In their panic after I froze their accounts, they had made mistakes. They had sent text messages discussing what to do now that the plan failed. They had tried to access accounts that were already locked, leaving digital footprints that traced their financial machinations over the past 2 years. They had even kept a notebook, found in Amber's nightstand, outlining their scheme in meticulous detail. The plan had been simple. Wait for Richard to have a medical procedure that required pain medication. Gradually increase his doses while Vivian was away. Let him accidentally overdose, inherit the money from the new will, disappear before anyone figured out what had happened. What they hadn't planned for was me coming home early. What they hadn't planned for was Dr. Chen recognizing the signs of deliberate poisoning. What they hadn't planned for was a mother who had been watching her son's moral decline for years. They had underestimated me. That was their final mistake. Richard woke up on the 4th day. I was there, holding his hand, when his eyes finally opened. "Vivian?" His voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. "I'm here, my love. I'm here." What happened? I remember taking my medication and then... You don't need to remember right now. You just need to rest. The children, Marcus and Amber, are they here? I squeezed his hand, trying to find the right words. "Richard, there's something I need to tell you, something difficult." "What is it?" "Marcus and Amber, they did this to you. They tried to..." I couldn't finish the sentence. Richard was quiet for a long moment. "I know." "You know?" I started to suspect, toward the end. The doses were getting stronger. I was getting weaker, and Marcus was always there, always watching, always waiting. He closed his eyes. I thought I was being paranoid. I thought no son would do that to his father. "Oh, Richard." I changed my will a few months ago. Amber's lawyer, she said it was to simplify the estate. But the way she looked at me when I signed it, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to believe it. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because Marcus is our son. Because I didn't want to believe our own child could..." He broke off, tears streaming down his weathered face. "How did we fail him so badly, Vivian? How did we raise someone capable of this?" I didn't have an answer. I had asked myself the same question 1,000 times since that day in the hospital waiting room. "We didn't fail him," I finally said. "He made choices. He chose money over family. He chose Amber's influence over our values. He chose to become someone we never raised him to be. Is there any chance at all, that we're wrong? That there's another explanation?" They kept a notebook, Richard, a notebook detailing their plan. How much medication to give you, when to give it, how long to wait before finding you. Richard closed his eyes again. A notebook. They were going to kill you for money. Our son was going to kill his father for an inheritance he would have received anyway, just not as quickly as he wanted. And now? Now they're in jail, and they're going to stay there for a very long time. Richard was silent for a long moment. "I don't want to see them," he finally said. "Not now. Maybe not ever. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything except heal. Will you stay with me? Through all of this?" I lifted his hand to my lips and kissed it. "I've stayed with you for 40 years. I'm not going anywhere now." The trial was 8 months later. By then, Richard had recovered fully, physically at least. The emotional wounds would take longer to heal if they ever did. We sat together in the courtroom, watching as our son and his wife were led in, wearing orange jumpsuits. Marcus wouldn't. Look at us. Amber glared the entire time. The evidence was presented methodically, devastatingly. The toxicology report showing levels of opioids that could only have been administered deliberately. The notebook detailing their plan in Amber's handwriting. The text messages discussing their timeline. The financial records showing the new will, the changed beneficiary designations, the accounts they had been slowly positioning themselves to control, the witness testimony from the neighbor, the pharmacist, the friend Amber had consulted about drug interactions, and finally, my own testimony. I told the jury everything, how I had found them calm in the waiting room, how Marcus had shrugged when he told me, "These things happen," how Amber had whispered, "This is a problem," when she thought I couldn't hear. I told them about the years of watching my son change, the months of suspecting something was wrong, the moment I realized I had to choose between being a mother who believed the best in her child and being a wife who protected her husband. I loved my son, I said, my voice steady despite the tears on my face. I raised him, nursed him, sacrificed for him. But love doesn't mean blindness. And when I saw the evidence of what he had done, what he and his wife had planned to do, I had to accept that the child I raised no longer existed. In his place was a man capable of killing his own father for money. The defense argued that the evidence was circumstantial, that the notebook could have been written by someone else, that Marcus and Amber were loving family members who would never harm Richard. No one believed them. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Marcus was sentenced to 25 years. Amber received 30. The notebook had been in her handwriting, and the research had been on her computer. She was determined to be the primary architect of the scheme. When the sentences were read, Marcus finally looked at me. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Don't. Please, just let me explain." "There is no explanation. You planned to murder your father. You wrote it down. You executed the plan, and if I hadn't come home early, you would have succeeded." I was desperate. We were in debt, and the money was just sitting there, and Amber planned. Amber wrote the notebook. But you were there, Marcus. You gave your father those pills. You watched him slip away, and you didn't call for help. You sat in that waiting room for hours, hoping he would die before I got back. I'm your son. You were my son. The man standing in front of me is a stranger. They led him away. I didn't watch him go. I turned to Richard, took his hand, and we walked out of the courthouse together. We never spoke Marcus's name again. 5 years have passed since the trial. Richard and I sold the house where everything happened. We couldn't bear to live in the place where our son had tried to kill his father. We moved to Savannah. A fresh start, a new home, a life untainted by the memories of what we had lost. We don't have grandchildren. Marcus was our only child, and now he's serving 25 years in federal prison. The family line that Richard and I worked so hard to build ends with us. Some days, that feels like a tragedy. Other days, it feels like justice. Richard has good days and bad days. The physical effects of the overdose have faded, but the psychological scars remain. He has nightmares sometimes, dreams where Marcus is standing over his bed, holding a handful of pills, smiling. On those nights, I hold him until the shaking stops. I remind him that he's safe. I remind him that I will never let anyone hurt him again. Last month, I received a letter from Marcus. It was the first communication he had attempted in 3 years. Previous letters had been returned unopened. This one, I read, it was an apology. A real one this time. Not the desperate plea of a man being led to prison, but the reflective words of someone who had spent years facing what he had done. He wrote about therapy, about the process of understanding how he had become capable of such a thing. About Amber's influence, yes, but also about his own weakness, his own greed, his own willingness to rationalize the unthinkable. He wrote that he didn't expect forgiveness, that he knew he had destroyed any relationship we might have had, that he just wanted us to know he understood finally the magnitude of what he had taken from us. Not just Richard's health, not just our money, our family, our trust, our ability to believe in the goodness of someone we had raised. He wrote that he loved us. That he always had, even when he was planning to kill his father. That's the worst part, he wrote. I loved you both, and I was still willing to do it. That's how broken I had become. I showed the letter to Richard. We read it together, sitting on our porch in Savannah, watching the sun set over the marshes. Do you believe him? Richard asked. I believe he's sorry. I believe prison has changed him. I believe he understands what he did. And it doesn't matter. Sorrow doesn't undo harm. Understanding doesn't restore trust. He made his choice 5 years ago. We're all living with the consequences. Will you write back? I thought about it for a long time. No, I finally said. There's nothing left to say. We sat in silence, watching the birds glide over the water, listening to the sounds of a world that had moved on without our son in it. "I miss him," Richard said quietly. "Not who he became, but who he was before. The little boy who used to follow me everywhere, who wanted to be just like his father when he grew up. I miss him too." Does that make us weak? No, it makes us human. We loved our son. That doesn't change because he became a monster. It just means we grieve twice, once for the person he was and once for the person he became. Richard took my hand. "Thank you." For what? For saving my life. For seeing what I couldn't see. For being strong enough to do what needed to be done, even when it meant losing our only child. I would do it again. 1,000 times. You are my partner, my love, my life. No one, not even our own son, gets to take that from us. We sat together, hand in hand, watching the darkness gather over the water, survivors of something no parent should ever have to survive, still standing, still together, still choosing each other every day. If this story resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and whether you've ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting someone you love. Like and subscribe for more stories about courage, survival, and the price of the choices we make. We'll take care of Dad. You focus on your conference. That's what my son said when I left for 3 days. I came home early. I found my husband in the ICU fighting for his life. My son and his wife were sitting calm, scrolling phones, examining manicures. The doctors told me Richard's overdose wasn't accidental, multiple doses, over several hours. Someone had tried to kill my husband, and my son was the only one with access. I locked every account they had access to, every bank, every investment, every property. They started panicking. "You can't do this." I just did. They kept a notebook detailing their plan, how much medication to give him, when to give it, how long to wait before finding him. Our son tried to kill his father for an inheritance. Marcus got 25 years, Amber got 30, and Richard and I moved to Savannah, where we watch sunsets together, where I hold him when the nightmares come, where we grieve the son we raised and the monster he became. We'll take care of Dad. Yes, you took care of him, Marcus, but not the way you planned, because I came home early and I saw exactly who you had become.